Now, if you're looking at this code and thinking, wow, this is really kind of clunky, the way that this is being done, all this work to see if I actually have a valid view, well, there's a better way to do this. And let me actually just show you some code here. Could you believe that we could actually switch, or I actually didn't mean to use the word switch, we could actually change our code. I'm actually using switch over here, but we could change our code so that code that we had before ends up turning into this. So let's actually do that slowly. Let me check out my changes here. Let's go back to where we were, and let's talk about how we could do this. So there are other libraries that are built really on top of React and on top of ReactDOM. And one of those libraries is the ReactRouterDOM. So if you do a search for ReactRouterDOM, you could find the CDN for this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to build this out using this library. And just to see that I have it here, I'm going to console.log ReactRouterDOM. That's how we can end up accessing it. That's a global variable that's sitting here that we're given access to. And if I refresh this, I'll see that I've got a couple of things with this JavaScript library. We're going to use a few of these. We're going to use redirect. We're going to use switch. We're going to use hash router. And let's actually destructure a couple of these things that we'll end up needing. So I'm going to need hash router. And I'm not going to need these other ones right away, but I'm going to grab them anyway. Switch, link, route, and redirect. You might not use all of these, but I'm going to get these from ReactRouterDOM. You might not need all of these, but for sure you're going to need the hash router and you're going to need the route. Those are the two that you're not going to be able to live without. And I'm going to take this code and I'm literally going to end up getting rid of it. So all this code, probably about 50 lines, the majority of it, waiting for the hash change. Again, if I went to run this, I'll find out that app doesn't exist. But I'm going to do this, and I'm actually going to be able to do this. Now, I might end up having a stateful component. That wouldn't be all that uncommon. But I'm going to make it stateless for the moment. So I've got my HR back. The way that I'm going to do this is that I'm going to return, and I'm going to return my hash router. If I do that, I'm not going to end up seeing anything. But let's actually put in our nav. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put in actually a couple of routes. So there's two parts to the route. There's the path that says, what is the route that you're looking for? And again, you don't have to put the pound in here. But I'm going to say that the path for /home, when you go to /home, and since I'm using the hash router, that's going to be #/home. But when you end up going to /home, I want you to use the component, and I'm defining the component property as being home. And if you end up going to the path about, we're going to use about. And for my nav, this is going to be a link to, so for the links, which is another component, the property that needs to be set is to, and this is going to be for home, home. And I'll have another link. And again, these are just going to get rendered as regular links. So if I just ended up doing that, I could click on home and notice my hash ends up changing here. Here's home, here's about. And you notice we did a little bit of work before by actually going here and saying what happens if someone comes in with nothing. We'd like home to show up. And that becomes fairly easy to do by using this switch. The way that the switch works is it says, hey, look, just like a switch statement. It says if you match one of these, we're going to consider you matched. So if one of these routes is matched, that's what you'll end up seeing here. And so this is not going to break anything. This will work the same way. We're still not going to see anything. But what we could do here is that there's an idea of a redirect route. Redirect basically says, hey, look, if you make it down here all the way to the end, we're going to redirect you to the home route. So if you didn't end up matching any of these routes, the switch says, okay, you weren't home, you weren't about, I'm going to redirect you. And it basically just changes the hash to home. So if I went to refresh this, by default, I'm going to end up making it out to home. And I think even if someone was to put in some gibberish here, that would still end up redirecting to home. So that's kind of a little bit of a nicer feature, but we ended up getting all this by really very little code. And one thing that you might ask is that if it turns out that the only thing that guides changes in React is state, then what happened to this state? Where's my state? Before I was keeping track of my state in the views, and I was listening for the hash changes. But if you dig into the hash router is actually controlling the state. We're not seeing it, but this ends up becoming, this is really called a higher order component to some degree, where what the hash router is doing is keeping track of the state based on hash changes. The same thing that we were doing before, but it's doing the work for us. And if there turns out to be a hash change, the way that it works is it says, okay, here are my routes. I'm going to end up matching one of these routes. And also, it does the work here for the redirect. So there still is state that's being managed here. It's just that we're not managing the state. The hash router is managing the state for us. And that's an important thing to realize, that it's not magic that's going on here. There still is a state. We're just not seeing it.